If you've ever looked at a pneumatic trailer and thought, there's no way I could figure all of that out, you're not alone. Because every single driver you're about to hear from thought the exact same thing. One of today's guests says the trailer looked so complicated that just reading the handbook made him more confused than when he started. Another admits he was terrified the day he got his CDL because, for the first time, nobody was riding along to catch his mistakes. One even ripped the mud flaps on his truck on day one. And the trainer who taught them? Well, he'll tell you the biggest thing that scares new drivers isn't the size of the truck, it's all those valves on the back of a pneumatic trailer. But here's the part that matters. Every one of those drivers made it through. Today, they're the people training the next crop of drivers. If you've just earned your CDL and you're wondering whether or not you have enough experience, if you've been told you need to spend years hauling dry van and bumping docks before you can move into something specialized, this conversation might change your mind. Because nobody is born knowing how to haul pneumatics, okay? Someone has to teach you. Today, we're talking with Bulk's recruiting manager and two experienced driver trainers about why pneumatic hauling isn't nearly as intimidating as it looks, what the training process really looks like, and why some of the best drivers in the fleet started exactly where you are right now. This is one of those episodes that could change the direction of your career. Let's roll.
You are listening to Always Pneumatic, Never Static, the totally pressurized podcast brought to you by Bulk Transit, where we keep the lines clear, the tanks empty, and the conversation anything but dry. Whether you're running powder, pellets, or anything in between, pull up a seat, crack the windows, and let's hit it.
How's it going out there, Bulk and Spur? Welcome into another episode of Always Pneumatic, Never Static. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We've got a great episode for you planned out, and it's all about why new drivers should consider pneumatics as a career. So, if you're out there listening to this podcast and you haven't given Rachel a call yet over in recruiting, but you're thinking about it, maybe you're listening to this podcast to test the waters a little bit and find out more about the company, this is one that you are going to want to lock in for. Rachel Dellaposta, the recruiting and retention manager for Bulk and Spur, will join us, as well as Greg Sigler and Jeff Linne. Jeff was actually Greg's trainer, and both Greg and Jeff have a lot of experience training drivers themselves. And so we're going to talk about some of the anxieties, some of the myths, some of the things that new drivers that maybe just got their CDL and they're fresh out of school might not know about this specialty freight that we're hauling and these trailers, these pneumatic trailers. They're really cool when you stand up next to them and you get to look at them. They look different. They're really cool looking, but I understand there's a lot to them. It can be a little intimidating. So today's episode is meant to talk to some of the people that have the information that you seek and put it out there as a way to say, look, Bulk and Spur will hire new drivers out of CDL school. That's not something that's been the way that it goes the entire history of the company, but it's the way it is now. And so we want to get on here, talk about some of this stuff, dispel any rumors or any misconceptions that there might be out there, talk about some of the stuff that happens during training. I'll even ask the guys, hey, what's the funniest thing that's ever happened out there? So there's a little tiny bit of an entertainment factor here, but this is a very informative episode. And I think if you're considering calling Bulk and starting your career in pneumatics, this episode might be the thing that moves the needle enough to push you over the edge and make you actually give Rachel a call and start that conversation. Before we bring our drivers in here, though, I do want to mention our awesome podcast website and give a shout out to my guy, Tyler. I built that website from the ground up, and you can find it by going to podcast.bulktransit.com. Every single episode that we've ever done is located right there. You can find out all the information about the episode, who we're talking to, what we're talking about, and you don't even have to download an app to listen to it. You can listen to it locally right there on the webpage. Once again, podcast.bulktransit.com. Also at that webpage, you can email me directly. It will hit me right in the pocket, and I would love to hear from you. So if there's something that you want to hear about on this podcast, or if you would like to be a guest on this podcast, we have a lot of fun in here every single week, even though we're talking about serious stuff, nuts and bolts type stuff. look, you get to come on this podcast and be the expert. You guys are the experts. I'm Steve Nash. I'm just here to deal out assists all day and look good, okay? And I'm only really good at one of those things, which is the assists. So, but all jokes aside, this is a powerful episode, and I think you're really going to want to pay attention if you're thinking about it and you just haven't quite crossed the finish line yet. Greg, of course, lots of experience outside of trucking. Jeff, lots of experience outside of trucking. And once they got into trucking and even more so got into a truck with Bulk and Spur, that's when they knew that they were going to retire working for this company. And those are a couple of the guys that you might end up training with if you were to come on board. So really good stuff here about to happen. In fact, I don't even need to make this intro any longer. All the meat and potatoes of this episode is in the interview segment. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, welcome back in here to Always Pneumatic, Never Static. Let's get our guests in here today because we have a great conversation ahead about helping, kind of dispel rumors and maybe give a little bit of confidence to some of you new CDL holders out there that might be looking at pneumatics as a career. And joining us today, quite possibly one of the first people you will talk to if you reach out to Bulk about a driving career in pneumatics, and that is recruiting and retention manager Rachel Dellaposta joining us again. Rachel, we're so appreciative of all the time you give this program. Welcome back. Thanks for being here.
Always happy to be here.
Love having you, and we got two other guys here, drivers joining us today, and these guys both have driver trainer experience, which is really important for our conversation today. So first, let's say hi to Jeff Linne. Jeff, how you doing out there today, my friend?
Doing well. Thanks for asking me back.
Hey, of course, man. We're very appreciative of your time as well. Thank you for being here. Also joining us today, we've got Greg Sigler back on the show. Greg, appreciate you being here, my friend. Thank you.
The pleasure's mine, bud.
Always, man. I'm glad you guys say that because if the pleasure wasn't yours, it'd be a lot harder to get you on the show, I think. So we really appreciate
Rachel makes us say
it. Yeah. Well, you and Rachel have this friendly little rivalry going where I think you guys are trying to set each other up for appearances on the show. You know, it's actually kind of fun for me. So let's just jump in here. Rachel, I'm going to start with you. I want to talk about why we're having this conversation. Tell me, is Bulk actively recruiting new drivers to the fleet right now? And if so, what's behind that decision?
Absolutely. We are busy across the board in just about every terminal. We are actively hiring, and we are looking for, of course, having pneumatic experience is great. But we are open to training people who don't have pneumatic experience. We are open to training new grads given the right background. So we are definitely willing to train the right person for a good fit. And we've seen actually a lot of success doing that in the past, and we've got some great trainers with us.
Right. And that is what's behind the whole deal is if you guys didn't have those great trainers, you probably wouldn't be able to take on as many, real green, wet behind the ears, fresh graduates. Do you get a lot of new, fresh CDL holder traffic in the recruiting business at Bulk, Rachel?
We do. We actually actively recruit out of a couple of driving schools. I know Sydney is active in bringing on new grads. Fairborn has brought on a lot of new grads recently. It's something that, we try to find the right fit and bring in new grads that have a background that kind of aligns with what we do. And the requirements to come on board as a new grad are a little stricter than if you have experience. But given the right background, we have seen a lot of success in bringing in new grads and getting them trained properly and on their way. And we've had a lot of successful drivers that have stuck around and stuck with us for a long time doing that.
I think those stipulations that you talk about that are a little bit more strict for just fresh CDL holders are kind of industry wide, right? If you take somebody that's never worked in a career, even if they're bumping docks, driving box truck, it doesn't matter. If they've never had any experience, I think pretty much every trucking fleet, especially, mid-sized, smaller fleets, are going to have those tighter restrictions just to make sure that they can protect the fleet as well, because there are a lot of these mega carriers out there that I could go get a CDL tomorrow. They wouldn't listen to a single podcast and see how crazy I am, and they'd put me in the truck. So it's probably a good thing, right, Rachel?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We definitely, we've talked about fit and retaining guys before on the podcast. So that's always the goal.
Do you think right now, and I know we kind of talked about this a few weeks ago when we had a recruiting focused episode that you joined us for, but do you think it's a good time right now for people to get a CDL? I mean, it seems to me, just fly on the wall type stuff, that the industry's sort of turning around. We spoke about that, how things are getting competitive out there for you in the job that you do on the day-to-day. But do you think it's a pretty good time right now for new CDL holders to enter the market?
It seems to be. A lot of companies are more opposed to hiring new grads. We're open to it. I think that the industry is really picking up. We've been busy, like I said, across the board in all of our terminals. So right now is a great time to start looking and getting in the door that way.
So, I mean, there you heard it right there from the recruiting and retention manager at Bulk, Rachel, telling us that it's a good time and there are opportunities available. And now is a great time to bring in our driver trainers, guys that have a lot of experience seeing new pneumatic haulers learn the ropes. Jeff, I'm going to start with you. Think back for me to your first day with a CDL. What things were coming up in your mind and bubbling up that you were worried about, Jeff? Anything that comes to mind?
I just want to learn. I was coming out of an office atmosphere. I was actually a production planner prior to getting my CDLs, and I just wanted to actually learn the new career. And my honest opinion about it is I just wanted to do this for a year as a paid tourist. I mean, that's really how I kind of looked at it. But I went through a school. So during the time that I was in the school, they were preaching team, and they wanted you to basically lease right off the rip. And I'm like, man, I need to get out here and learn the industry before I start trying to figure out how to run a business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the biggest thing for me, or if I had any fear at all, just the unknown, just not knowing what I was getting into and where I was going, but yet I was going to enjoy it because I knew we had a beautiful country.
Sure. I can imagine that's pretty intimidating as a guy that's just in school trying to figure out if this is going to be the right career, and all of a sudden the push and the pressure is to, hey, go ahead and buy a truck. Let's get you as an owner operator right away. I would just be overwhelmed, Jeff. I couldn't imagine, because listen, doing so many podcasts for so many trucking fleets over the last 4 years, one thing I've heard is that owner operator trap can be a big one, and it can be a really big money sink. Probably not the way you would have wanted to start your trucking career.
No, not myself. I mean, there might be some people out there that might have lucked out and made it work. But I honestly feel like in most of the experiences that I've had or talked to anybody else that's been involved in owner operation, they've either had influences from family, they've had some insight somewhere somehow to get started. I don't know of anybody that's just come into the industry and went right into it and had been successful or are successful. They might have lasted a short period of time and it was like, well, we better close up shop and then go to the company route.
Yeah, I mean, it happens with owner operators just like it happened with a bunch of the smaller fleets. We've lost a lot of capacity in this market as of late, and part of that was because during the COVID boom, everybody and their dog got an authority, and sometimes the market just can't support that type of capacity. And as things start to tighten a little bit and companies get busier that do have well-run fleets, you see a lot of those people that maybe they didn't realize that, the top half of the engine's going to cost you 15 to 20 grand to replace, or tires being as expensive as they are, or fuel, or any of the rest of it. So interesting stuff there, Jeff. I appreciate that. Greg, I'm going to come to you for the same question. Obviously, lots of driving experience, lots of turning left in your background. But what was going through your head on that very first day you were holding the CDL? Did you have any anxiety or any worries?
Yeah, I had some worries because then you're fully responsible. When you're with when you're with an instructor, you kind of feel like somebody's watching your back, but as soon as you get a CDL and you're out on your own, it's like real nerve wracking.
Yeah.
And you guys just like, I didn't have a dog, but I did get my own authority after COVID. It did not work. I didn't know we were going to come on here and team up on me, but that's okay.
Hey, it's all, it was unintentional, Greg, but you did eat a couple of stray shots there. I apologize.
It kind of hurt. That's my trainer talking. So, I mean, man. Dang. But no, it was intimidating. I mean, because you're going from, a normal person goes from maybe a pickup truck or a car to this, and you just got to watch. You got to have your head on a swivel, because for some reason people don't see these trucks on the road and they want to cut you off, and you learn. And I think Jeff and I have talked about this before. I think you should have to drive in a semi as a passenger for a week before you can get your driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
absolutely.
But
that would be great.
Yeah, it's intimidating. Like I said, I tried it on my own. That didn't work. I worked for another company. That didn't work. And I was very intimidated on the pneumatic trailers, because the more I read our pamphlet, the more confused I was. And then the first day with Jeff, this guy shows up with a bucket hat on and shorts. And I'm like, this is going to be awesome. And we had the best time. And basically, I mean, everything just clicked. It worked out great. It was, I was in my mind a lot more. This is really, if you can count the 15 and comprehend the English language, this is a easy job.
I love that. That's great stuff. And I that's even better that we got Jeff on here as well as your trainer. We'll get into that and how that went for you guys here in just a little bit. But in the vein of thinking back to when you first started, I wonder, Greg, is there anything that you would tell young Greg right now? If you could go back in time and give young Greg a bit of advice, knowing what you know today, what would that be?
I would just don't be afraid. Just do your research, because there's a lot of recruiters out there. Jeff will probably back me up on this, that they just want to put you in the seat.
Yep,
whatever it
absolutely.
takes to get you in the seat. They're a car salesman.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachel didn't seem like that. And then it was just a perfect fit. Everything just checked perfect. But just don't be afraid. If you got a new CDL, don't be intimidated. Everybody, I don't know for the most industry, but I know everybody here at Bulk Transit, it's family. Everybody looks out for you. We've all got your back. But just don't be afraid to take the first step. It's overwhelming. Your first overnight, I'm not going to lie, I backed over the mud flaps. I ripped the mud flaps from off the tractor and trailer. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. So, I only had one way to go after that. So.
Yeah, well, there you go. And hey, no better way to get acquainted with all the guys at the shop than to rip a couple mud flaps off on day one, right?
I sent a picture, and I backed up, and I'm like, what is that shiny thing in the road? And I'm like, oh, God, this is Bulk Transit. and I called, and Tommy just died laughing. I'm like, well, I'm glad you guys are funny. Just finding it funny.
Yeah, right. You never know how the shop's going to react when you pile another something on their plate, so it's good that they laughed it off with you. And Rachel, I got to say, does that make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside to hear, all this time after Greg came on with the company, that you kind of set yourself apart from the other recruiters that he had talked to? I know you set yourself apart with me because I get to talk to you so much, but you must be pretty good at your job if Greg's calling that out here on this show.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. I always tell people, recruiters have a bad reputation throughout the industry that, all recruiters lie, and I never want to be that person.
You can tell. You really can. And we've called that out before on this show, and that's one of the reasons I'm always so glad to have you, is because there is no smoke and mirrors with you. And sometimes, with other fleets, and it's understandable. Sometimes there's a little bit of tiptoeing around by recruiting because obviously they've got a job to do and they need to get butts in seats. But you can tell that you're really not out here selling cars. And that's one thing I really take to. Jeff, I want to ask you the same thing that I asked Greg there. If you could go back to young Jeff and look him in the eye and give him a piece of advice knowing what you know now, what do you think that would be?
Oh, wow. That's, I would like to give a lot of advice to young Jeff. I don't know if you remember or not, but, in the one podcast we were talking about, I think it was the Father's Day one or whatever, and I said something about having a little bit of a lead foot.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily benefit you in the drugging industry.
Yeah, in fact, it can prove as a detriment, can it?
Absolutely. Like, I get a little older, I'm starting to acquire patience. I was very impatient at a younger age. I was constantly wanting to go 100 mile an hour all of the time and not really taking time and like maybe doing the pre-trip the correct way, or whenever I've had some situations when in loading or unloading and not necessarily get the things hooked up exactly proper, and you look over there and you got a dog ear that's about ready to pop open, and you got to rush around and make sure you cut back the pressure, and because you don't want a big explosion or whatever. Just small things and patience I think more than anything, just understand that these are big trucks. They're not a four-wheeler, and they don't maneuver in the same way, and we don't get around like those other people do. And I don't necessarily have all the little personal conversations hoping that they could hear me when they do exactly what Greg was talking about.
Yep.
Things of that nature. You know what I mean? I would just impress upon patience and just being calm.
Yeah. That's great advice.
Make better decisions and things go better.
For sure. No, it's great advice.
And I do want to say one thing though, about taking shots. The last episode, Greg took a shot about his trainer eating hamburgers.
I didn't mention your name. And it was cheeseburgers.
Cheeseburger.
I would never.
Well, fellas, I'm glad that you have that little advice segment, because I think about sometimes going back and talking to young Marcus as a younger kid, and it seems like every single piece of advice that I would start to give young Marcus starts with "Listen here, idiot." And right. we all gain knowledge and we all get better as we get older. And the other thing that happens as we get older is we naturally slow down a little bit. And telling your younger self to, hey, be patient, slow down, don't rush through things, don't have a lead foot all the time. That's great advice, especially because we've got I'm hoping we've got new CDL holders listening to this, and they can heed that advice before they ever have to get 20 years of a career behind them and try to run backwards around the world fast enough to go back in time. So I think it's great stuff. I want to move on to kind of the intimidation surrounding pneumatic trailers. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit specialized, obviously. And I'm going to go to all three of you for this question. So Rachel, I'll start with you. You probably get some calls from some people who've never even seen a pneumatic trailer before. Is that the case? And if so, how do you sort of go about softening any anxieties that guys might have? Because this is specialized hauling, and if, let's say you trained and the only thing you ever trained with was a box truck and they just trained you to bump docks, we got a whole different job going on over here at Bulk and Spur. How do you approach that with somebody that has no idea what pneumatics really entails?
Yeah, I actually get those calls all the time. I can't tell you how often I actually speak to people who don't even know what pneumatic trailers are. And that's fine. You don't have to come in knowing anything about it. We've got great trainers. That's something that I always lead with, is these trainers are going to make sure you know what you're doing before we send you out on your own. If people do have some hesitations, I usually tell them, tell your trainer you want more training on X, Y, and Z. Like, they'll get you what you need. You don't have to, have anxiety about going out on your own before you're ready. If you feel like you need more training, we absolutely will get you more training. The podcast is actually something that I use as a tool pretty frequently with people. I tell them to, go listen to the episodes where we've got drivers talking about hauling different product lines and what that is like, so they can really get an idea of what it's like. Because, I'm a recruiter. I sit in the office. I don't do the job every day. So the best way for them to understand what they're getting into is to hear it straight from those drivers.
Absolutely.
So I point them in that direction. I tell them, go take a look at the website, take a look at what we do. And I really try to be honest about it and tell them it is different from hauling dry van. It is more physical. You're getting in and out of the truck. You're hauling heavy hoses. You occasionally may need to climb up on top of the tank using a harness. So I try to make sure that every single applicant knows that's what they're getting into before they get to the interview.
That's great information for them to have. Jeff, what do you tell a guy that's walking out to get in your truck for the first time? Maybe he looks a little bit like Greg and has no idea what that pneumatic trailer is all about. How do you approach things with those guys? Is there like a checklist that you go down, or is there sort of a process that you have that helps you kind of, I guess, baby step them into that? There's two different ways. We can let him in the shallow end of the pool and let him walk to the deep end, or we can take him down and kick him off the diving board. What's your process there, Jeff?
I will be truthful. Most of the time, it's an introductory period of time, because typically when we leave Piketon, we got plenty of time to drive before we're picking up a trailer or dropping hook and that kind of thing. So really it's getting to know each other kind of thing. And once we get the load and we get to where we're going to unload, that's when we start talking about the trailers and stuff. I don't want to get them all panicking right off the rip. So when we go to unload or whatever, I'll just kind of go step by step of what my process is as far as my routine, like how I hook up, and then I kind of let them, while I'm doing that, let them look at the trailer, because most intimidating thing about the trailer itself is the number of valves that are on there. And it just depends on what type of product you're hauling. You may have, when you're hauling that stuff like plastic and anything that you can vac on or blow off, there's multiple valves on the backside as well. And it can be intimidating by looking like, what's all these valves for? Like, and honestly, you really only have three particular valves at the unload point that you're really working with.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see them all, it's like, oh wow, what's going on here? And then just break it down as we start to unload. And honestly, I've learned over the years that I did train and was training, 99% of the people, and I'm one of them myself, I do better by doing it. In other words, tell me what valves to open and close or whatever, and let me do it. Don't go and do it and watch them and just have me sit and watch.
Right. Yeah, that hands-on experience is so important.
Yeah. So that's kind of my first time. I usually do the first one myself, have them, and then like there were a lot of times when we were doing 2 loads in a day, I would do the first load, and then I would sit back and say, okay, let's do it this way. That kind of thing. I can't remember if it was a 1 load deal with Greg or if we did 2 the first day, but that's kind of how I usually approach it. Mm-hmm. I don't have nothing written down. I'll have to be honest with you. I do everything kind of like off the top of my head, and then I kind of go by the feel of the day.
Sure.
And I always, the whole time, I'm like, hey, if you got any questions, ask them, because a lot of times I don't remember everything, but we'll get to it. But if you ask questions, it'll trigger something. And of course, I get diarrhea of the mouth, so it don't take no time for me to start running off at the mouth.
Which is why you're such a great guest on this podcast. If you didn't talk to us, Jeff, we wouldn't ask you to come back. So we like that about you. All right.
Right.
And my first question is going to be, and I don't care what Greg has to say about it, my first question is going to be, where's the best cheeseburger and how far away are we from it? Greg, we will go over to you. Do you remember that first day training with Jeff? Was that, did you guys end up doing 2 loads? Did you do 1 load?
Yeah, we did too.
And so
We did too.
he
It
watched
was,
him do the first one and he let you do the second one?
He slept from the first one. I never saw him again. He was in the sleeper suite the whole time. I was a natural born talent. I can't help it. No, it was a learning experience, but it was very simplified. He was just like, he showed me the first time he did it, but hands on, I've got to touch it and I want to mess it up myself. And then he's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know." He would actually let me, he would actually like, "Oh, if you do that, it's going to plug up." And I'm like, "Okay." So, it worked out really well because, heck, I'm still here. So
Yeah,
he did a really good job. But the first day, I'm like, "Hey, are you Mr. Linne?" He said, "Get in, sit down, shut up." And I'm like, "What the crap?"
Man, you guys get you guys in the same room together. It's just going to sound like a slap fight in there. Good Lord.
It's bad. But when I love training new students that just have their CDL because I had one I've had actually, I don't know, 2 or 3, but I kind of use Jeff's model and training. Usually the safety department or somebody will email me how many hours they need behind the wheel. I'll take off the first day, get to know them, what background, where they drove, where they took their schooling. I'll go out. I'll let them drive empty back if I feel comfortable. For the first couple of days, let them drive empty. And then if they feel comfortable, we're doing like a load that's real easy to get to because some places are easier than others. Mm-hmm. I'll let them drive heavy. And then just like me, and like Jeff said, they want to do hands-on. I'll show them the first day. The next day, okay, here, grab that, watch this. And then usually by the end of the week, they're kind of off on their own. But that being said, if, say, somebody has to have, I don't know, 100 hours, just throwing a number out there, behind the wheel driving. But if they're not ready, and I won't release them until they are comfortable with our Qualcomm, our pneumatic trailers. I want to set them up for success, not to get up there and be frustrated the whole time. Because if you're frustrated, you're going to quit.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see that across the industry. That's one of the reasons I think that turnover can be so high in some fleets is because they're not training up guys well enough. That leads to that frustration. They can't ever get out of that hole, and it's just easier to go and find another gig than to try to restart that whole process. And I think that's something you should hold near and dear, Greg, because the guys that get out of your truck after you've trained them, they always feel ready if that's your philosophy. There's never a guy that's going to get there that's not 100%. And I'm assuming you're asking them that question directly, too. Are you ready? What is it that we can work on, if there's anything?
Yes, I when we get real close, I'm like, what do you feel comfortable? And some of them, I've had one that it's kind of like a bird. You just kind of had to give them a push. They could do it just as good as I could. But they were afraid to take the first step, and they did really good on their own.
Right.
And then most of them, I think Jeff let me start doing the Qualcomm day 3 or 4, and that's what I start doing. Start getting in the paperwork, the Qualcomm. I want them to be comfortable with everything. It's just got to be second nature. It's got to be habit. We're trying to, and I did get in trouble after Mr. Linne sent me out. I was doing my paperwork just a little wrong. And Kelly's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know."
All right.
I said, "What am I doing wrong?" And she's like, "Well, this." I'm like, "Oh, my bad." I said, "Well, we fixed it before it became a habit." So I try to do the best I can, but there's, like Jeff told me, once you get out on your own, you're going to play around and find your own way to do things. And
that's exactly right. Yep.
I just teach you the basic way that's going to, it's going to get you to A to B. It's going to get you unloaded, but there is faster ways to do things, but you'll figure it out.
For sure. Rachel, it's got to make you feel pretty good hearing this, knowing that these are the guys that, or some of the guys and the quality of trainers that you have that you can put new recruits in with. I just wonder, you look at this, kind of zoom out and look at the entire process from that first phone call all the way to you're off on your own and you are a pneumatic driver. Everybody that comes through your office gets some really, really good training, and that's what we're seeing here today. You can tell that these guys are dedicated to making sure that everybody is set up for success. And I mean, no wonder you don't have to be a car salesman. Why would you with that type of operation going on?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a big help to me when I can say confidently, you're going to be in good hands. They know what they're doing. They're going to train you well, and you're going to feel comfortable when you're out on your own. And it's such a good experience when we have trainers who are willing to continue to mentor our drivers after they're out on their own. I know a lot of them continue that relationship too, and they'll text the guys, they'll call the guys, say, "Hey, I got a question about this," or "What's going on with this?" and they continue that relationship, and that is always super helpful in retaining our drivers and again bringing in that family feel.
For sure. It's so cool. One of the topics that we'll do sometimes, and it's actually, we've got it on the board. We want to do it here for Always Pneumatic, Never Static, is sage advice is what I like to call it. And it's when we bring on drivers that have been around for like 20 or 30 years. They've been doing this so long, they know it like the back of their hand. And then we get some guys that are just freshly in the truck. And I just open the microphones up and say, pepper them with questions, ask whatever there is to ask. And I learn so much on those episodes, but what's always kind of a through line in every single one of them is these experienced drivers, Jeff, Greg, and everybody out there like them, they really enjoy sharing this knowledge. It's not something that is gate kept. And look, I've got experience across a lot of industries. Even in radio, there would be higher level questions that I would sometimes ask the people that were my boss, and they would look at me like, "Stay in your lane, pal." And it's like, well, what if I want to run this radio station one day? And there's never like that, I want to pass this knowledge down to you. It was like, you get to stay down there until I decide I've had my time. I don't see that stuff with truck drivers. And Jeff and Greg, maybe you could comment on that a little bit. Jeff, I'll start with you. You get quite a bit out of sharing the knowledge that you've earned over all these years, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, to me, if I can, I mean, it kind of goes back to whenever I was younger, before I started driving truck, and I was actually coaching at the little league level and stuff. I got more enjoyment out of the ones that I had to work harder with to get anything out of than I did those that were like a little more talented and kind of could go on their own. Mm-hmm. So those I'm not gonna lie, it's the same way. Somebody comes along and that picks up on things rather quickly. I mean, it's not a challenge or whatever, but if there's somebody comes along and they question everything and you have to tell them 2 and 3 times, I get more enjoyment out of that, because if they end up doing really, really, really well, then I feel like I've done something to get through to them.
For sure. Well, I have to ask, since you're a little league coach, I got to ask you, since we're kind of firing strays here every now and then in this episode already, would you compare Greg to that all-star pitcher, shortstop, middle infielder that's the do-everything guy, or would you compare him to the kid that you're stashing out in right field because he's more interested in picking dandelions?
Well, this is the total honest to God's truth. Greg knows how I feel about him. Greg got recommended for a few things through me. I actually recommended him, and he hadn't even been with the company more than a year, Greg.
What'd you recommend me for?
Counseling, therapy, a couple of things.
Well, all of that too. Big company comedian.
No, I'm serious. Everybody just laughs at me. It hurts my feelings.
Right.
Yeah, I think I was here about 2 years when you recommended me, but yeah. He's mentored a lot to me.
That's cool. So sounds like Greg might have come in with a little bit of that pitcher, shortstop, kind of all-star guy vein about him.
Well, Greg done a lot of things right in life. You see, he's a retired iron worker. He got himself nice set up, and he come over here into this truck driving industry, and he was already well-rounded individual, smart, already had experience being in a like superintendent or whatever. Is that what they call them, Greg? You superintendent?
Yes.
So you got subordinates and things of that nature. So driving truck, that's why he says it's so easy.
Yeah, lots of responsibility in that old gig, wasn't there, Greg?
It was a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah. And those don't happen to you anymore working at Bulk, do they?
Only if you park next to a reefer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, guys, I've been waiting to get to this part of it. I wanted to get some of the serious questions out of the way first, because whenever I have kind of a recruiting-focused episode and I'm talking to recruiters and trainers, this is something that I just have to bring up, because the stories that we get are they're mind-blowingly off the wall, and they're always fun. Without mentioning any names, Greg, I'll go to you first, but without mentioning any names, can you tell me a funny story that's happened to you when you've been training somebody? You know, we've all come into new careers in our professional lives, and making a misstep or a funny mistake or saying something that's completely off the wall, it happens to all of us. So I wonder if you've got one story, Greg, that kind of sticks out to you that just, when you think back about it, you laugh about the thing that happened with that trainee.
Well, I think the biggest thing is I do is, they're excited when they're driving. And, you know, like Jeff and I, you're carrying on a conversation going down the road. And I'll say, hey, there's our turn. There we go. We pass it. Then they panic. And I'm like, well, you know, at Bulk Transit, we go the extra mile mainly because we miss our turns. But yeah, but I'll tell you a good one on Jeff. The first time my trailer plugged up, Jeff has a really good setup on how to unplug a trailer. It's in writing and everything. I don't think it was in writing then, but he had wrote it down in my notebook. I got notes for pretty well everything I've done from day one at Bulk Transit. So I get out there and I'm trying to unplug it. It's not working. So I called Jeff. He's like, well, what did you do? I did what anybody would. I ran around the trailer with my arms in the air going, oh my God, it's plugged, it's plugged. So, yeah, but I mean, that's usually, we joke around. I don't know one particular thing, but my favorite thing is just when they miss the exit.
Yeah, because that's, I mean,
like
that's as common, like four-wheelers are going to do that too. If I had a nickel for every time I'd miss my exit, I wouldn't be a podcaster, I'll tell you that much.
If you would have called me not parked, I'd be in Alabama right now, because I'm like, oh, where am I going?
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Jeff, how about for you, man? You got a funny moment with a trainee? Of course, we got the one from Greg. Any other ones that come to your mind, something silly or funny out there that happened that, you know, wasn't detrimental? I know things can go wrong and things can become really bad, but anything sort of lighthearted and funny that you're remembering from your training days?
Yeah, there have been several little things. I don't know. The one thing that I found a little strange. I was training an individual. I think he was 52 years old, something like that. And in our conversation, he was talking about LARPs, and I was a little bit younger, not much, but I have never in my life heard of anything about LARP.
Are you saying LARP? Can you spell it for me just so I know what you're saying? Because I don't think I've heard of it either.
LARP.
Okay, that's now I'm on board with you. Go ahead. Sorry, continue.
Okay, so and I asked him to explain it to me, and so he was explaining it to me, and it's live action role play.
Right.
And I got a little bit nervous because I didn't know what direction it was going in. So he proceeded because in the previous part of the dialogue, he was talking about having a wife and dating a woman at the same time, and they both had the same name.
Jeez, that's a pickle right there.
Yeah, so it was real strange. But anyway, when he started explaining it to me, these people would meet. They different venues or whatever. It could be in the local park. It could be wherever. And they were using Dungeons and Dragons. I was like, that went out back in the 80s. What's going on? But that's what the whole premise was. It was based off of Dungeons and Dragons. They would literally get together, dress up, and they would put together this acting out of this storyline that somebody developed.
Yep.
And I was like, this is crazy. A man 52 years old still doing this kind of stuff with Dungeons and Dragons. I thought that was kind of hilarious. And the same dude, he gets to a place in Portsmouth, Ohio, Osco, and he gets plugged up. I get a phone call, and he said, "Hey, I got plugged up." And I said, "Did you follow the procedure?" He said, "I did everything you told me." I said, "Well, tell me what you did." And he explained to me what he did. And sometimes when you're unplugging, when the material's coming back into the tank will bounce. The dude panicked and closed everything off and shut it down because I didn't tell him that it bounced.
I can understand that. Why is this giant trailer bouncing? I'm shutting everything down. I get that instinct. I do.
But yeah, that was something that I promise you is never going to leave my memory unless I get dementia.
Well, I'll tell you, man, there's no better way to stay young than to dress up like a wizard and throw snap pops at your friends in the park, okay? I think that we could all probably benefit from that for a little bit. Not lying to you, you know. My wife does cosplay. She does cosplay where she'll just dress up like a character and build a whole outfit out of it. And I will tell you, she goes to some of these conventions, there'll be people lined up down the hall to take pictures with her, and she doesn't play the part. She just dresses in the part, and it's crazy how many people are into it. It's you said Dungeons and Dragons went out in the 80s. Man, it's making a resurgence these days. I've got people that have told me that they play Dungeons and Dragons that I was blown away. I mean, some of the biggest sports fans that are friends of mine that are big football fans, big hockey fans. They love watching sports and, doing all the guy things. They're outdoorsmen and they play poker and everything that you would expect your run-of-the-mill guy to do. But then on Sunday afternoons, I'll be damned if they're not wearing leather armor and have a fake sword strapped to their chest because they're out there doing Dungeons and Dragons stuff. So more power to you, man. I say to each their own. If you're having fun, put on a costume and own it, right?
Right. Well, I mean, it just caught me by surprise. And like you mentioned something about your wife doing something and going to. There's a thing in I think it's down around Cincinnati once a year. I don't remember. It's Renaissance Days or something like that.
Yep.
And I think it's in that same vein.
It
and
is.
They do it, and I think it's a big draw.
It is, and I'll tell you what they also do out there. They get just as drunk as you can imagine. I've never seen people drink like I seen some of these at these Renaissance, because I live in Eugene, Oregon, which is the hippie capital of the United States. So that type of stuff, that's just a Wednesday down in the park here in Eugene. And I'll tell you, those people, they can party. They have a lot of fun dressing up in the old kind of, just kind of Renaissance era clothing, and they drink like a super mug made out of wood full of lager. I mean, it's really fun to watch. I will say, and I can understand why people get into it. But great stuff there, Jeff. I'm glad you told that one. And Rachel, we gave you plenty of time to think. You spend a lot of time talking to a lot of these recruits as well, and I know that there's got to be a story bubbling up in your mind that maybe makes you laugh, something that's happened with a new guy, or maybe a question that got asked that was kind of off the wall. You got anything for us?
I don't really have any specific stories, but some themes kind of come to mind that I hear a lot. The way people pronounce pneumatic trailers, because they see it. I've heard it pronounced like pneumatic trailers. Like they ask these questions, and they've never heard it. They've just seen it, so they come up with these crazy ways to say it, and that always makes me laugh. One thing that always makes me laugh is we get quite a few female applicants, and so I'll be explaining it to them, and I talk about the hoses are fairly heavy, blah blah blah, and they're like, well, if the hose weighs 75 pounds, I only weigh 90. I don't think I can lift that. So at that point we have a different conversation, and think this maybe isn't for you. But it always makes me laugh when they're like, I'm teeny tiny, I can't lift that.
Yeah, I imagine so. Well, the reason I bring that stuff up, guys, is just because if anybody's listening to this right now, I want them to know that this is the way it is for everybody. If you're new to this and you've never been around it before, and there's so much that goes into it, but fact of the matter is everybody comes in some shade of green when it comes to getting this new job, and everybody has to learn at their own pace. And the funny stuff, the lighthearted stuff just goes to show you that you never really know what you're in for when you get in with your trainer. Your trainer doesn't know what they're in for when they get in with you, but that's all part of the process. And having such a great staff of trainers at Bulk like we do is what makes that transition easier on everybody. And I appreciate you guys bringing that up because I just want to set everybody's nerves at ease. Something's going to happen. If your trailer starts hopping off the ground and you've never experienced that before, it's okay to panic a little bit, but let's take a deep breath, call the guy that can help you out, and get that all ironed out. And Jeff, I assume everything went okay with this gentleman after you got in touch with him and his trailer was bouncing.
Yeah, he finally went back and got it unplugged, and his day was over at that point. So, but yeah, that was kind of interesting though.
Good. Well, I want to do kind of a biggest myths rapid fire here, and I'll kind of go around the table and ask you guys these questions, and you just give me a true or false. And if you want to explain that answer, you can explain it. But consider this kind of a primer for somebody that's never hauled pneumatic, doesn't know anything about it, but they're thinking about giving Rachel a call. Greg, I'll start with you. True or false? Pneumatic drivers spend all day covered in whatever product that they're hauling.
Very false.
Very false. Talk to me.
Yes. I don't like getting dirty. So, yeah, I keep my truck clean. If you are covered in stuff, something is terribly wrong.
Got it. Okay. Jeff, going to you. Pneumatic hauling is only for experienced drivers. I think we know the answer to this one, but true or false?
That's absolutely false.
You've seen a guy that's as green as the day is long come in here and have a successful career from the word go, haven't you?
I'm just saying that not everybody's, I don't know how many people starts out hauling pneumatic trailers right off the rip, so about everybody's green.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you don't wake up right the first day after having your CDLs going into a job hauling pneumatics most often. But back to kind of in the same vein at the topic of this whole podcast, the whole idea of pneumatics being a specialized carrier, that's the way it was when I was going back and forth working an hourly job, and when I decided to get into the truck driving, I really had intentions of coming to this company right off the rip, but I found out that back then they didn't allow drivers they didn't hire drivers unless you had 2 years of experience. So that's why I went ahead and got my license and went out with all them other companies. I had intended coming back to work for this company because it was just right there in my backyard.
Right. You had your eye on Bulk for a while, and you eventually got there, so it's all good. But you did have to you had to cut your teeth a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah. Then yes, not so much now. Things have changed, and like Rachel said, they're all about trying to get some people right out of school, and that's bring them on.
Yeah,
actually,
bring 'em on.
I had an old hand tell me one time. He was a boss man of mine. He said he would much rather bring in a greenhorn and teach them the way he wants them to be taught and run things, rather than bringing somebody in with all the experience and thinking they know everything.
Sure. You can't have hot shots out here trying to reinvent the wheel, right? We got to bring them up the right way, and that's part of, I think, the family aspect of the company here is that, look, there's a way that we do this. There's a safe way. There's an efficient way, and kind of getting everybody started out of the blocks in that right lane is the way to do it. And I mean, it's like you said, that's why we're here today. Rachel, I don't want to leave you out of the true or false. I kind of have a recruiting focused one here that you might hear from time to time, but I'll ask you, true or false, hauling pneumatic is harder than hauling, let's say, dry van.
True.
And if somebody just asks you that, hey, is it harder than hauling dry van? How are you answering that question?
I would say it depends. Different product lines are different. Different terminals go to different customers, and that makes a difference. I know, like here in Plain City, going down to the rail yard is harder than doing things at other terminals. So
Mhm.
it depends where they're looking, what they are used to doing, and what they are comfortable doing too. Because some guys love being able to get in and out of the truck and having a little bit more physical activity. And some guys think,
Absolutely. Yep.
it's a lot harder for them to drive and, stay out 2 to 3 weeks at a time. Like that's, it just kind of depends what they're used to and what is hard for them.
Yeah, it was like I think about it as like on the playground in grade school. You got your monkey bar kids and you got your swing kids. The swing kids are good, just kind of hanging. They're fine. The monkey bar kids, it's okay if they're climbing on something and they fall off. They're going to get right back up and climb right back up on top of it again.
Right.
And it's a personality type, and identifying that is all part of the gig here. But the opportunities are there for all types, and there's lots of different types of hauling that Bulk and Spur get into, and lots of different scenarios that you could end up in. So if I could take anything away from this, I would say just give Rachel a call. She's going to give you all the info that you need. And if you end up working here, you might end up sitting next to Jeff or Greg at some point in time and getting some really good instruction. I always am amazed at these conversations on this podcast in particular, on Always Pneumatic, Never Static. I always look at the clock and think, well, we've been talking 20 minutes or so. No, we've been here for 50 at this point in time. So I've already run out of time with you guys. I want to get you back to it. I know you're busy. We're recording this on a Friday. Everybody's trying to get home for their weekend. So let's get to the final thoughts segment here today. This has been a fantastic interview with you guys talking about why new drivers should consider pneumatics, and we just really appreciate all of the information that you all have brought here today. Final thoughts from you, Jeff, Linne, before we get going. Anything we left on the table or anything else you want to say before we wrap it up today?
I would just encourage those that want to get into the industry, not necessarily listen to the instructors at the schools as far as saying, hey, you've got to go out here and be with these long haul companies to get experience, because there are specialized companies out here like us now that are taking you right directly out of school. So check in and don't be afraid. And right off the rip, to be truthful about it, specialized is where you really want to end up in the long run, because you're going to be home more often. You're not going to be out 2 and 3 weeks like you would if you, like they say you have to do to get your feet wet to be able to come back to do the local jobs. We're not necessarily local, but I would venture to say we're about 99%. Everybody's home at least 2 days, whether it's all both weekend days or like a maybe 2 days in the middle of the week if they got some that are taking advantage of the weekend pay, whatever, but just don't let it hold you back.
Great advice, Jeff. Really appreciate the time. As always, my friend, you're welcome on the show anytime. We'll get you back on here again soon. Thanks for being here. Greg, final thoughts from you after this great interview. We really appreciate your time as well. Anything that we left on the table or that you want to say before we wrap up?
I would just say, I tell everybody that comes on board, the newer people, or just anybody that's been doing this for years, like dry van, flatbed, don't be intimidated by the trailers. There's a lot to look at, and you don't have to learn it all the first day. It's all pretty easy. Like Jeff said, it's specialized. I can't speak for all the terminals, obviously, but our terminal runs, we've got dedicated routes we run normally, then we'll help other terminals out. And if you ever have a problem, if I don't have the answer, I'll call Jeff, I'll call another trainer. We will get you an answer. Everybody's got everybody's back. And this is a little bit more than a job. This is really a good career. So if you're starting out, you can absolutely make a great living doing this. You take care of yourself. And when you get, upper 60s, 70s, if you want to hang it up, hang it up.
There you go. There you go. Great advice, Greg. Thank you for being here. Again, you're welcome on the show anytime as well. Anytime. And of course, somebody that I already mentioned gives us so much time and helps out so much behind the scenes with this podcast is recruiting and retention manager Rachel Dellaposta. Rachel, can't thank you enough for the time that you give us here on this podcast. Final thoughts from you before we let you get back to work.
I will just throw out one other kind of reassurance for you. When we do release you out of training, we try not to send you too far out right away. That way, if you do get plugged up, if you run into trouble, we can get to you fairly quickly if need be. So it's kind of one of those things. You don't have to go into it scared. Like, I know doing something new is always nerve-wracking, but we try to take care of you. I always make sure everybody knows I'm always here. If you're not comfortable going to your terminal manager or your trainer, which I hope that you are, but if you're not, give me a call. I'll talk you through whatever needs talked through and point you in the right direction. And if I don't have the answer, I will find it for you. And we'll talk through things and make it work.
Great stuff, Rachel. Thank you so much for the time today. If you're listening to this and you're thinking about it, I'm going to tell you right now, take a deep breath, settle down just a little bit, and give Rachel a call. I think that you'll find that this is a really good company to work for, a really good career to start. And hey, just like Greg said, you're going to look back and be 70 and be ready to hang it up after you come to work here with Bulk and Spur. And another thing I want to say is we will get some newer drivers on here that are in the beginning of this process very soon and do sort of a follow-up episode to this. We've heard from the people that have all the answers. Now it's time to go and talk to some people that are just getting started and see how it goes. Rachel, Greg, Jeff, awesome stuff from you today. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon, okay?
Thank you, Maurice.
Thank you.
Great stuff from Rachel, Jeff, and Greg. Hats off to them as always. 3 people that have given a lot of time to this podcast, and we appreciate them greatly for that because, listen, I said it in the open. I am not the star here. I am Steve Nash. I got to get experts in here, people that are really well-versed in what we're talking about, and let them lead it. And they did a fantastic job. I actually told them off the air, next time I'm not even going to say anything. I'm going to cut the mics on, and I'm going to go take a nap. And I'm going to let Jeff and Greg and Rachel do the episode because they're so good and they're so knowledgeable that they could do this without me. I'm literally just tossing the ball around the table. It's like that, you ever work in like an office environment and they have the little squish ball and you toss it around the table and then you say something about whatever you're talking about or you give a personal fact or something like that. That's a lot what my job is. I'm the ball. I'm just getting tossed around and I'm just asking people the questions and they're doing awesome answering us, giving us all the information that we need. If that episode didn't move the needle for you as a new CDL holder thinking about pneumatics, I don't know what will. You heard right there, proof in the pudding. I didn't even know that Jeff was Greg's trainer until he said that live on the show. I just knew that Jeff and Greg had both trained people before, and they both volunteered to come on the episode, so great. But we got an even deeper layer there in hearing a little bit about Greg's training. And listen, you heard 2 guys that told you, look, I was intimidated. I did not know if I was going to be able to do this. Jeff thought he was going to be a 1-year tourist, like he said. So, it's understandable to be a little bit intimidated by specialized hauling like this, but at the end of the day, Bulk and Spur have the trainers and the staff and the support to present this opportunity in a way that it can be seized successfully and turned into a great career for you. There is one thing that I want to add here before we wrap this whole episode up that the drivers told me a little bit after we went off the air. We were just kind of chatting back and forth. And I believe it was Greg or Jeff, one of the 2, that said, hey, can you make a note so that people that are listening to this that maybe are prospective Bulk employees, they are going to give Rachel a call after listening to this episode, know that the truck that they're going to get into is going to be an automatic. That's a very important thing in today's trucking industry. Many of these trucking schools don't even train guys on manual transmissions anymore. They only train them on automatics. Which means that, if you didn't know that and you were coming out of school and all of a sudden they put you in an 18-speed, things are going to be a little bit weird for you. But these trucks are automatic, and listening to Greg and Jeff talk about why they like the automatic trucks, even though they came from the manual truck era, is something that makes me realize that these trucks are, first of all, we know the equipment at Bulk is top-notch. It's very well maintained. A lot of times you might end up in something new or newer And of course, Brad DeWolf over there running the shop in the maintenance department, and all of the terminals and all of the truck and trailer shops throughout all of the terminals do a fantastic job. And proof of that, we've only been able to get shop guys on the show just the one time because they're busy. They have a lot going on. It's hard for them to cut out for an hour in the middle of their day and keep this fleet on the road in good condition. And we understand why they would bypass the podcast to continue working on the bulk trucks and keeping them as well maintained as they are. So just a little side note for you there. Automatic trucks, if you're thinking about it. I don't know what else I could tell you at this point in time that would move the needle anymore for you. You're going to get great training. You've got a resource there in Rachel who will answer every single question to the nth degree for you until you're comfortable enough to actually send in the application. And you even heard her say right there before we left that, hey, even if you're feeling a little uncomfortable talking to your trainer or your driver manager or your terminal manager about something, give me a call and I'll see if we can talk it out a little bit. That type of support is not necessarily something that you see across the industry. I've worked with a lot of trucking fleets over the last 4 years of experience that I built doing this, and I think that's the first recruiter that I've ever had say on a podcast, after you're in the truck and out on your own and months have gone by, and if you have an issue, you can still call me. That's amazing because the process for Rachel, by the time you're off on your own in a truck, that process is over. She's off looking for new, fresh recruits, qualified, good applicants to be the next crop of bulk drivers, but she's still willing to take a call from you. She's still willing to help you out in any way that she can. And never more evident than how she helps us out all the time on this podcast. Rachel is a budding star as far as broadcasting is concerned. She's a solidified star in the recruiting and retention category, and we're just lucky to have somebody like that heading up the department here at Bulk and Spur. Want to say thanks to Rachel, of course, Jeff, and Greg one more time, and I also want to remind you, everything that you need to interact with this podcast is on the website, podcast.bulktransit.com. Head on over there, click the button, send me a message. We've got quizzes that go with every single episode. And, they're just for testing your mettle a little bit. Hey, how's your retention and not keeping good drivers here? Rachel's got a handle on that. How's your retention when it comes to hearing information and remembering it? When the information comes from this podcast, sometimes that can get a little hazy because your boy likes to chat. But you can go take the quizzes and know that when we have our next giveaway, that is how you will enter the giveaway, is by taking the quizzes. So get a little bit of practice in right now. Start working on that mental retention, and sooner or later here, sometime within the next few months, we should be having another giveaway where we'll put something on the line, and we'll get everybody entered by taking one of the quizzes or a couple of the quizzes, and then we will do a random drawing to give away a really cool prize. The last time we did that was shortly after we launched the podcast, and we gave away 2 really nice cooling vests. And let me tell you, that was before summer, so I bet those guys have been out there utilizing the cooling vests all summer long, staying cool, staying hydrated. Maybe they're climbing up and down off the trailer. Maybe that's their gig. Maybe they've got one of the ones where they don't have to do that quite as much. Doesn't matter. They're keeping it cool because they got a cool cooling vest from Always Pneumatic, Never Static. So we're just here for you guys. That's all. I mean, I'm here to have a little bit of fun. Yeah, we get to make it entertaining, but at the end of the day, episodes like today's are chock full of information that will answer questions for you if you're still on the fence. And if even one person jumps off the fence and gives Rachel a call because they heard this episode, slam dunk, man. I'm happy about it. So want to say thank you to everybody that clicked download today. Go to the website, take the quiz, send me an email if you want to be on the show or if there's something you want to hear on the show. And do me a favor, let me add some homework to your list today. It's real easy. If you're listening to this and you tune in every week and you get anything out of it, maybe it's just a laugh. Maybe you listen to hear what the next ridiculous thing that comes out of my mouth is. Maybe you listen for when I stop talking and you can hear the actual experts talk. It doesn't matter. If you've ever gotten anything out of this show whatsoever, do us a favor here at Always Pneumatic, Never Static and tell a friend. That's all I'm asking. You run into somebody at the truck stop that you haven't seen for a while. Maybe they drive for bulk out of a different terminal and, hey, you cross paths. Ask them, hey, Have you checked out Always Pneumatic, Never Static yet? It's real easy to get to. The website's podcast.bulktransit.com. Head over there and check out a couple episodes. That would do wonders for us. We just want more people to listen. We want more people to be involved. Everybody that wears that Bulk or Spur logo is welcome here on Always Pneumatic, Never Static. So get over to the website, shoot your boy a line, and let's make some podcast magic together. Thanks again to Rachel, Jeff, and Greg for their awesome interview today. We will be back here next week for you with another hour of content on Always Pneumatic, Never Static. Be safe out there. Have a great week.
And that's all she blows for today's episode of Always Pneumatic, Never Static, your number one and probably only pneumatic trucking podcast, brought to you by Bulk Transit. Thanks for rolling with us today. Till next time, stay safe, keep those lines clear, and keep it pumping.